It's another episode of the Christian Reeve podcast. But are you subscribed? If not, make sure to like, share, and subscribe. Spread the word about the Christian Reeve podcast and enjoy this episode. Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Christian Reeve podcast. Today's guest is a singer, songwriter, TikTok star, and vintage enthusiast hailing all the way from Hampshire in the United Kingdom. Her name is Isabel Allen. Welcome to the show. How are you doing?
Oh, I'm good, thank you. I'm doing good.
Now, for those listening to the podcast, they won't actually get to see this. So I recommend all of the listeners of the podcast, go check out the video version on YouTube. We can see in the backdrop of Izzy's room there is about, I don't know, probably hundreds of posters in the background. Everything from David Bowie, Hendrix, The Doors, Kiss, Pink Floyd, everything. It's a very, very cool room. How long did it actually take to just kind of like assemble all of that together?
That's a question I get asked a lot because I mean it does look like it took a while, but I started putting like small posters in my room when I was like 14, 15, like so about 3 years ago. But I didn't, if you were literally to have all of these with a blank wall, I think it'd probably take like a day. And like I wouldn't have, just because the ceiling was so hard to do, like I almost like fell off my bed so many times. But I really like it.
It's a sight to behold. I mean, because I'll just say for our listeners, I discovered Isabel or Izzy on TikTok. And I think the first thing I was drawn by was, wow, that's a cool room. And then obviously I saw all the things you were interested in, and you're slightly a bit younger than me. And I was like, oh, that's cool. It's cool that the next generation is into this stuff. Because, you know, I'm close to 30 now. I'm ancient. But the interesting thing about my generation, your generation, is that like there's always this kind of appreciation for decades prior. So like right now, you know, there's a lot of people that are really big on like 80s stuff and whatnot.
Yeah.
That happened when I was growing up. When I was young, there was this kind of like 80s revival thing, and that happens quite often. Do you know what I mean? You have like a bit of a, you know, like right now they're trying to bring back 2000s fashion. It's not going to happen. It was bad then. It's bad now. It's not gonna happen.
I remember like secondhand clothes when I was younger, and I was like,
yeah, but that's the thing. Like those eras. Like I get why you're into these things, and I get why these things are perpetually cool. Because like, I don't know, it's kind of timeless fashion. Do you know what I mean? There's some fashions that when you look at them, you're like, that's never going to come back. But then you never know. You never do know. I mean, some of the fashions that I was dressing in back in the 2000s and some of the music I was listening to, I hear people trying to bring that back now, and I find that interesting because it's like some of it was okay, some of it was good, but a lot of it was very of the time and a bit kind of over the top as far as like experimentation is concerned. So it's like, but no, to get to the more important thing that I wanted to ask you is like, where did this kind of interest and appreciation of retro things kind of begin? Because it's one thing to be interested in these things. You know, for me, I got into all of these different bands through my mum and her record collection. You know, it was like, I remember coming home, listening to, I think it was Linkin Park, Hybrid Theory, and I was like, where can I get more like music like this? And she said, here's all my records. And there was everything from Hendrix, Metallica, Nirvana, I think it was Motorhead, a lot of cool things, and it was all very varied. But through that, obviously later on I've discovered bands like The Doors and Bowie and all that stuff. But for me, it was always kind of like, okay, cool, I like this music and I like new music. But there's a lot of people like yourself that are kind of embracing these bygone eras and like fully immersing themselves and almost like living in that time, in a kind of like time bubble within our modern times. So like, talk to me about how this kind of started for you and how it's evolved to the point that it's at now.
I think my dad, when he was younger, he used to be a big fan of like 80s glam rock kind of stuff. And when I was younger, he would always play in the car. And I think the two bands that I liked the most was Whitesnake and Queen. When I was younger, I used to be absolutely obsessed with Queen, but only the later stuff, which I find really horrible now. Like, I don't know why. But I remember my dad took me to see We Will Rock You when I was younger, and Brian May actually like appeared at the end and played Bohemian Rhapsody, which was absolutely sick. That was so cool. And I think I really liked all that stuff when I was younger. And then probably when I was about 10 to 12-ish, I went through this weird phase of liking bands like Fall Out Boy, which God, I don't want to ever mention. Like,
well, too late. Yeah.
And then I stopped, like, because I found the Beatles when I was about 12, and I was like, damn, these guys are so cool. Like, and so yeah, that's kind of where it all came from. And then I was like, I stole all my dad's CDs. My dad had a bunch of really sick records, he told me, and he left them in the garage and they all warped, which is
no,
so sad.
Okay.
But yeah, like probably most of it is from stealing my dad's CDs. And yeah.
So where do you kind of sit with modern music? Like, obviously, we all know that you're really into your old music and your classic and music and whatnot. But like, do you have like zero interest in modern music, or is it just kind of like you feel kind of like older music is just generally better? Because I've met a lot of people. I've always been a musician, always been involved in music in some shape or form, and I've met people all sorts of types. So some people are like, no, the best music was made before this era, and there's other people that are like, because like for me personally, I sit on the fence of like, most of the music I listen to is from a bygone era, but there's a lot of modern stuff that I listen to as well that I think is worthy of listening to. Every now and again something comes through and I'm like, oh, that's pretty good. You can normally hear influences. So to give you an example, Mac DeMarco as an example, in him I can hear like Beatles, I can hear old stuff in that, but then there's also kind of a new flavor as well of the times. So like, where do you sit on new music?
I mean, I'm not completely. I think saying that all modern music is bad is silly, because that's just not how it is.
Yeah.
There is some good modern bands. I don't listen to it too much.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's this band called Temple, which are pretty sick, and Arctic Monkeys sometimes, like mainly just when other people put it on. I think it's quite nice, but and the other one is Jack Stauber. I really like Jack Stauber. He's really cool. I like his use of the synth. I bought a mini synth because of Jack Stauber. I thought, oh, I could do this. I can't do that. I cannot do what Jack Stauber.
Okay, well, that's cool that you're experimenting though, and like, because I know you play guitar and you do singing and stuff, but I think as a musician, it's always important to try and branch out and try different things, because more often than not, we do tend to be instrumentists. I know that I can play the drums a little bit. Like, I've never owned a physical drum kit. I had an electric kit, but that doesn't really count. But I can play. I think like you once you kind of understand the basics of music, you can kind of, do you know what I mean? There's that joke: if you can play guitar, you can play bass.
That's a controversial statement.
It's true.
Yeah.
Well, it's like, let me put this away. When my first band did our first record, our bassist didn't come prepared, and we were all kind of annoyed at him. And I remember, sorry, Ryan, okay, but this is true, and it happened. He kept messing up the bass parts, and the producer was there and I was there for like everything. I was obsessed with, everything. I was always there. I'd be the first in, last out during recording sessions and that. And I remember this time the producer turned to me and just said, listen, Christian, can you just do the bass parts? And I felt bad because like the bass is sitting right there and it's his part, but it's like we'd been there at least a couple of hours trying to do a pretty straightforward part, and in this particular section we did it. I think it took me like 2 takes, and then that was it. It was a bit embarrassing, but like bass is it's an instrument in of itself, and it takes a lot of skill to do. And I think it depends how you play it. If you're just playing, basic notes and stuff, then it's pretty easy to transition from guitar to bass. If you actually want to play the bass guitar properly and really contribute something to a record, then you do have to go away, learn how to play it. And what I mean by that is things like, slap bass and things like, even just the difference between how things sound, playing fingerless versus playing with a pick and stuff like that. There's so many other factors, but
one of my pet peeves with people like on bass is when like a bassist like learns how to play bass without a pick, and then they completely are like, oh, imagine playing bass with a pick. It's like in certain situations it's better, like completely degrading it because you've learned a more skillful way to play is so dumb. And I act like at like the college I go to, when people say that, I just hurt so much. I'm like, oh my gosh, as a bassist you should know that's not true, you know.
But the bassist in my band was like that. And it was like, dude, like there were so many times we said to him, like, listen, it's okay to use a pick sometimes. Like we were a metal band as well, so using a pick in a metal band is kind of like it's pretty important, especially if you're playing like the faster licks. It's like just use the pick, it's fine. Like, do you know what I mean? We're not I don't know, we're not Slayer, we're just some band in London that's trying to make it. So like no one's going to be paying attention to if you're playing, but you know, we were young, you know, whatever. But yeah, there is that sort of elitism in music and that silly kind. I think it's a musician's quarrel. I think like anyone who's not a musician probably won't get it, but like it's this whole thing of trying to like almost one up other musicians. And like here's something I bet you can relate to. Do you ever do like sound checks or not even necessarily a sound, or do you do sound check, or do you do like you'd be playing shows, particularly when you're starting out and you don't really have many people there, and normally the people in the audience are the other bands, right? And you get every now and again, I got this quite a lot, where people will be standing in the audience like this, right, just kind of like looking annoyed the whole time, and you can tell they're just judging you. They like every 5 seconds they'll be like, oh, shit, they call
oh my gosh, what
they are. You ever get that?
I mean, because like the only gigs I've really done is with Barrera, and the gigs we have done, which is like 2 of them have been like online gigs where we go to a place and they film us and we do it live, what have you. And the other one, oh my gosh, my voice keeps going. I have a sore throat, I'm sorry. The other one we did was a sat down gig, and the other band was like sat on a sofa over there, but they all seemed, I think we all had like mutual respect for one another because for some reason, I mean, I guess I understand because of Corona, but the person who was like organizing the gig, we had like us who was like more rocky than like 1975 kind of indie band, and then a completely pop person. But like, Indian pop, but like completely different, and we're kind of, it's like we wouldn't really have a place to judge each other because we don't understand it as well.
That used to drive me nuts playing in London. Like promoters, when they don't put the right sort of bands together. Like I think so many times when I turned up to a place and the band, like there was one gig I played where, because I was like against playing pub gigs. I was like, no, we never play pubs. We're not a pub band. We're a metal band. We play venues. But there was one thing. It was in our local area, and it was like an all day. They called it a festival. It wasn't, but like, you know what I mean? Like where there's like, I don't know, 15 bands throughout the day and you come and do your slot. We had like a 7 p.m. slot, and I was like, okay, as a one-off, we'll do this because it's local. Fine. The band before us, it's not a band. It was a guy with a guitar doing, I don't know, jazz fusion, experimental jazz for like half an hour. And it wasn't like fun, like, you know, maybe you got some Pink Floyd vibes. No, it was just straight up boring as hell. Only a minute amount of the population would appreciate it. And then we come on, scary, hardcore, post-hardcore kind of metal band / thrash metal. And suffice it to say, the mood was not there. We horrified everyone in the building. Everyone looked shocked. It looked like Slayer had just come through and just killed everyone or something. It was quite terrifying. And then we finished. We came off, got a light kind of golf clap. And then the next band comes on, and they're like a pop band. Like, you know, like sort of pop, almost pop punk, like, you know, Mommy didn't love me, everything's unfair. Like, just, I don't know, whatever. And it was so weird. And I found that all the time. With so many promoters in London where they just don't care. They just put any old crap on together and be like, yeah, that works. Whatever. Well, you got guitar, they got guitars, that works. It's like, no, it doesn't. You need to think about setting the mood and like building up. So if you did have a pop band on a metal band show, put them at the beginning and work your way up. Have the pop band, then have a sort of light rock outfit, then go metal, and then, you know what I mean? Like, it's
like
rocket
no,
science.
I completely see. Yeah, especially like with people who have just come to see anyone really. It's like got to have some kind of organization with things like that. I mean, and it wouldn't really take much. It's just like actually doing some research into the band, saying what would go best.
Well, what I just laid out there, that takes 5 minutes.
Yeah.
You got a couple of bands and you're like, okay, well, logically, how does this work? And you put them in order, like, you know what I mean? Because it's about vibes, isn't it? It's like, if you put on, like, I'll give you a really good famous example. So I'm sure you probably heard about this. I think it was in 2007, maybe 2006. It was either Monsters of Rock or Download Festival. Very famously, My Chemical Romance played after Slayer. So you can imagine the whole audience is full of very serious metalheads.
Yeah.
And, you know, very violent people ready for fights. And then comes on this emo rock outfit. Now, MCR is a great band.
Yeah.
But putting them on after Slayer, it's not a good move. And inevitably, they got bottled so brutally. And it's not fair. It's not cool. But what did the promoters expect, really, in that situation?
Yeah, no, that's a bit. Oh, go on. I mean, I can imagine that being quite funny though. Like, but
it kind of is and it isn't. I don't know. Like, I've seen it with other bands. I remember seeing there was this, I don't know what they're called, Black Veil Brides. Is that it?
I've heard of them.
Yeah, it's some sort of like, they look like a glam metal band, but they kind of, I don't know how to describe it really. I remember I had to take someone's son to go see them. It was like his first gig. So I'm here, I'm like 21, 22. I'm there with my then girlfriend, and he's like 14, 15, and we're taking him to his first show. It was weird. It was a weird, but do you know what? They were okay. The band they put on a decent performance. But I remember just thinking, like, it's for a very small, specific, like, there's a lot of music that comes through, especially in the UK, where it's intended for a very specific age demographic, and it has its kind of couple of years, and then you move on. So when I saw this band again years later at a festival, again, same thing. You know, they were still doing the same music they'd done sort of 3-4 years before, and again had been booked after some heavy band. It might have been Lamb of God or something. They come on, get bottled mercilessly, and they didn't take it well. The singer he could have been a professional about it, but I think he started like dissing the audience and stuff. And it's like, listen, best thing you can do in that situation, it's not your fault that that's happening. It's not your fault. Just finish and get off the stage as quickly as possible. Damage control. Don't open it up and make it worse for yourself by then attacking your audience. That's gonna ignite it even further, and the chances of you getting it. I mean, luckily at festivals we don't have glass bottles anymore. Like, it's plastics and stuff. That's one saving grace, but you know, people find a way. But yeah, anyway, moving it on. I just want to focus a little bit more on the retro stuff before we move on to your band and your music and everything, because you did mention that. This is kind of an obvious question, but I kind of want to just explore a bit more about your personality, you as a person, your interests and stuff. So I kind of know the answer, but I think it'd be interesting for our audience to hear. Why do you kind of tend to prefer the aesthetics and music of like bygone eras in comparison to today? Like, what about it is more preferable in your opinion?
I mean, I obviously kind of think things sound better. I just like the organicness of, you know, nowadays you have all these electronic things. I don't know how to describe it, but like if you look at things like early Fleetwood Mac, you literally have just like guitar, bass, drums, and nowadays like things like Coldplay incorporating like more tech. But I kind of like the I don't know. I'm not dissing it at all. It's just like a preference. I like the authenticity of those instruments, and I think the electronic can be used in really cool ways, like with synths, and like the Who were very experimental with things like that. They were like one of the first bands to be, and I just think bands like that just did it all in a way that people can't really today, just because of how things were recorded. You can't get like guitar tones from like back then unless you like spent a lot of money, just because like how things were recorded, just how things were played, and just the atmosphere of everything was just a lot cooler. Another question I get a lot is, do I think I was born in the wrong generation? And the answer is no, I don't think I was born in the wrong generation, because despite me loving that era, there was still like problems with like homophobia and things like that. And I'm straight, but like still, I just wouldn't want to be around that. You know,
I think this is the problem people forget as well. Like here's a really good example. So the fact that we can easily consume the music in any way we want. Like think about if you were in the 60s, 70s, you can't. I don't think the portable headset stuff was invented till either late 70s or early 80s, I think.
Yeah.
So it's record player or nothing.
You know, I was thinking about that yesterday. Like, how on earth? Like, imagine having to spend a lot of money back then to have like a discography of a band you like. Like well, now, I pay a tenner for everything a month.
Think about this as well, right? Because I had a little bit of an experience with this in the early 2000s when I was discovering various different bands, right? Where you'd go into like a HMV and you'd buy albums based on the cover art. But back then you could still find that music online, so you could check it online before you actually bought it. Back in obviously 70s, 60s, whenever, all you had to go on was one or two things. Either one, a recommendation from a friend. You might have heard something on the radio, but for stuff that was considered back then very experimental, something like, let's say, Jimi Hendrix, right? In the 60s, that would have been considered almost like underground until he really got mainstream. It was, you know what I mean, experimental stuff. So you wouldn't have heard it on the radio. So the only way you would have been able to find out about Hendrix would have been through recommendation from a friend, or by going into a record store, and hopefully you've just got someone there who's clued up and knows about this stuff and recommends it. Other than that, you're just looking at records and seeing like, oh, that looks cool. Oh, that doesn't look cool. You know what I mean? It's very tough to know. And that's why, like back then, I think, record artwork was so important. Like these days, it doesn't really matter. But like back then, kind of probably the most important thing, really, because that's the first thing you see in the record store, you know. But, interesting stuff. But yeah, I agree with your sentiments on that. I think it's a lot easier to consume music and gain access to all the different things that we like these days. And as you said, social issues are different. I mean, you know, back then there was a lot of misogyny as well in music, and this, some of that still exists today, but not like anywhere near the same extent.
Like I mean, another thing that I was like looking into, which was like quite shocking. I looked into this like ages ago because my boyfriend's brother brought it up to me, and I thought, I was like shocked, like how rock stars would like sleep with underage girls and like call them baby boys, which I was like, oh my fucking, like sorry, I swore. I don't know if I'm allowed to do that or not.
That's fine. We ain't got any sponsors yet.
Jimmy Page and like David Bowie like had some like dirt on them, and it was kind of just shocking to like hear. But like it was not. I don't think, obviously it wasn't okay, but it was more normalized then, which is just weird. But yeah, like still, then I don't think it excuses it at all, because I don't know how you like look at someone so young and think, yeah, you know, it's
I'm not trying to defend them, but I do think, particularly with someone like Bowie, if that would have happened, I think those girls wouldn't have looked as young as they actually were. But at the same time, I think you do have to have more. If you're in a position of authority, like a musician, I think you just, as a rule, shouldn't have kind of contact with fans in that way. Just to be sensible, and B, kind of do your research a bit. I'm not saying you have to go out and find someone's passport or whatever, but like, come on, like you can kind of put two and two together. You know, like if you got someone rocking up at your show and they're with a couple of friends and they look kind of young, chances are they probably are underage. You know what I mean? And I don't know. I think my eye for these things is pretty good. Like if I go to a show like that Black Veil Brides show that I mentioned earlier, right? You could tell the general age was all small, young teenagers. You could just tell, but I don't know. Maybe it was different then in some way. But yeah, bringing it back to what we were talking about with as far as the lyrics is concerned, I've discovered that a lot, and it's, you know, like I love me some Led Zeppelin, but it's difficult sometimes to listen to some of it. Damn, I was even listening to an ABBA song the other night. I think it was the song's "Does Your Mother Know?" And I was listening to the lyrics of that, and I was like, "This is kind of questionable." Like
many songs, if you look back, and it's like,
yeah, and like, I don't think anything bad happened there, but still, it is kind of testament to they were different times. And I'm glad we've kind of moved on from those times, and we're getting a bit in a more positive direction, at least. You know, people are more protected now, and you know, there's less of that. Fingers crossed. Yeah, let's move it on. So what's the kind of community like for retro vintage stuff online? Obviously, because I've seen a lot of people on TikTok like yourself who are into this stuff, but what's your experience of it? Are you active part of it? Is it a big community? Tell us about that.
I mean, I know that like some of my mutuals, I don't really talk to any of them like outside TikTok at all. Like we comment on each other's posts, what have you, but like it's kind of like just acknowledging each other exists. I think there is a community, but I'm just kind of not quite around it too much. I'm sure there are like groups of people that are like friends online, etc. But yeah, I'm not really a part of it. I'm kind of just vibing, I guess. I have some really cool mutuals on TikTok, but yeah, I don't really speak to any of them outside TikTok. I probably do like a couple, but like not like notably like everyday like solid friendship kind of thing. It's just I kind of like to be quite preserved with things like that, unless I was like gonna collaborate with someone, which I'd be completely open to, what have you. I kind of don't really speak to that many people from TikTok.
Fair enough. In terms of like how you acquire a lot of the old vintage stuff that you get, like I can kind of sort of figure out where you would go, but like, tell us about the sort of places that you tend to go to pick up your vintage bits and bobs.
This was I found in like the vintage side of a charity shop. It was like only £7, which was cool. Got this on Depop. Those are two pretty cool places. My leather jackets I got on eBay. I love collecting leather jackets. My records I get from my local record shop because the person in there is so cool. He's so nice. Like I have vintage furniture which I've got from Facebook Marketplace.
Oh wow, okay.
Table is from a charity shop. Pretty much all of it is just from like your standard secondhand shop. But you just have to keep an eye out. Like I didn't just accumulate all this overnight. Like a couple of years.
Yeah.
Like looking around. But yeah.
Awesome. What kind of comments do you tend to hear quite regularly from people regarding your style and like, you know, just your interests and stuff? What are the common things you tend to hear?
Probably, do you think a lot? Do you think you were born in the wrong generation? Like one of the ones I get a lot is, oh, you're so quirky. It's like,
okay.
So it's just like, I don't really know how to reply to that because like if you look into the word quirky, you're technically correct, but I hate how modern it's being used to be like, oh, you listen to the 1975, you're so quirky, like that kind of thing. I'm just like, I'm not trying to be anything other than just show my interest. It's so annoying. Yeah. But I do obviously get loads of really positive comments.
Oh, I know what you mean. You mean like when people are like, "Oh, you like a poser? You trying to be like deliberately, like
like kind of like that
kind of thing?" Yeah. I get. Yeah.
No, completely. I absolutely am. This is all for sure. Like I have 7 guitars, don't play a single one. That's another one. People ask if I play my guitars. It's like, no, I don't play my guitars. Like, what? I don't understand that question at all.
It sounds like jealousy to me. Like I do understand to some extent. You know, when I was growing up, I was always in the alternative crowd. Everything from emo, Scene Kids, Metalhead, Skater, like all of that stuff. I was always part of that crowd. And I remember there was a lot of gatekeeping. Older people would be like, "Oh, well, you can't be. You know, you're just doing this to I don't know, get clout or something. And it's like, no, I like this stuff. It took me ages to become part of that crowd. And then when I did become part of that crowd and get accepted, I realized like they were all douchebags and it was all just poser and stuff. And I was like, screw that. I'm not going to be part of that crowd. Like, I just like this stuff because I like it.
Yeah, like that's pretty much.
And that's the funny thing. Like, I never stopped liking these things, whereas those people sort of grew out of it mostly. Like the poser people, the actual posers, like they grew out of it, and now they work in a bank or whatever. And it's like, like, oh wow, guess that was just a phase, huh?
No, it's not a phase, man. That's also another thing. It's not a phase, man. I mean, yeah, I think I'll always be listening to music like this. Like, not like, I know that sounds like really cringe, whatever, but like it is like a music taste, and obviously I want music as my career. So why would I stop listening to it? Like,
I think
my dad never stopped listening to it when he got older.
Your grandfather, did you say?
My dad.
Your dad, sorry.
He used to listen to a bunch of stuff like that. He never stopped listening to it, and now he like listens to them still, like Slash and Miles Kennedy. He listens to them quite a lot. I honestly don't like them that much, but I went to see them with him and download.
Interesting. Which download?
Gosh, 2 years ago, it was not Led Zeppelin. Oh my gosh, Def Leppard. Was Def Leppard, Slash, Miles Kennedy, and Whitesnake, and I loved the Whitesnake so much. Can't remember what his name is. The lead singer from Whitesnake, who was also in Deep Purple, because me and my dad were wearing like matching T-shirts, and it was like, and there weren't many people my age. I remember like jumping up and like waving at him, and he waved back, and it was like, what a moment. But,
I've seen Slash with Miles Kennedy. It's this is very good stuff.
No, I think it's entertaining. I really like seeing them. I just wouldn't listen to them.
Yeah. Fair enough. Okay. Let's talk about your band. So you are the lead singer and rhythm guitarist for a band called Barrera. It's described as an alternative rock band that takes inspiration from 60s and 70s bands. How did this band start, come about, and what are your main goals that you hope to achieve with this band?
So it started off, me and Tom, we had like a similar friendship group, and we get set assignments from college to do projects together. And all the other people in the group had already paired up with someone, and Tom was like, do you want to work together? And I was like, all right then. I honestly was hoping I'd work with James for it, who's another member from Barrera, ironically, because James was one of my best friends, and he picked Ross, one of the Barrera's mates. And so I was like, okay, I'll work with you, whatever. And I'm not gonna lie, I found Tom really annoying, because he was like, he did like some good music, but he also really liked Coldplay, and I despise Coldplay with all my being.
Okay, back up a second. Why do you hate Coldplay so much?
I find them cringy. I think, and I swear, for one of my college projects, I have to sing the song Yellow, and I've sang it so many times, and every time it's like a piece of my dignity gets ripped away from me. But,
is that like a punishment for your college?
No, like we had this project over lockdown, which was like we had to write and produce a song, and we completely redid Coldplay, like of the song Yellow. We completely redid it, made a recording of like us playing it, and it sounds really sick. But I was gonna do a song called "The Fox Is Sick" by a band I like called The Savage Resurrection, and I kind of couldn't be bothered, so I was like, oh, I'll just do Yellows. Whatever. Then they said, oh yeah, you have to play them now, and I was like, I was so bummed out, because I would absolutely love to play the song Fox Is Sick. But yeah, I'm stuck doing that, but it's okay. I also have to perform it in front of people at the end of the year or something, which is worse.
So it's always tricky to do it in front of your peers. I used to hate that at school and in college. Just, it was the worst. And I've performed in front of hundreds of people plenty of times and not felt a thing. Very normal, easy. But in front of people I know, that's the worst.
So me and Tom had worked together to write 2 songs. Basically, the plan was I wrote, because I was on the songwriting course at this time. I do vocals now just to improve vocals. But at the time, we were like, I wrote the 2 songs, and then Tom like pretty much helps produce and like add all the elements to it. And the first song we wrote was our first ever song we released. Like the first song I ever wrote with Tom, we released as Barrera, because then James and Platt, who's our drummer and bassist, they came along and added their elements to it, and that was Can't Help, which was our still our most played song on Spotify. And then the other song was this really disgusting acoustic song, and I remember Tom brought it up a couple months ago saying, "Oh, we should work on that. Do you remember that? It was really cool." And I was like, "Tom, I swear to Christ, absolutely not." I hated it so much. And I remember, like, because it was like this Coldplay feeling song, I remember trying to make it more psychedelic-y, because I was like a massive psychehead at the time. I loved all that stuff. I still do, but not as much now. But so I tried to make these lyrics really cool, and it just ended up sounding cringy. Like, I tried way too hard, and I was just like, no, we're absolutely forgetting that song. Never. Ugh. So yeah. And then I think the goals for the band is basically just to make a living from it.
Yeah.
Be able to like spread the music. I think that's any band's goal, really. Yeah.
So your first album is actually out right now. It's called Abnormal Beginnings. It was released in December 2020. Talk to us about the sounds of that particular album. Any particular lyrical themes that you explored? Now's your time. Talk about the album.
I mean, I think because I going back, but like I think since we're working on new stuff now, I think we all kind of agree that we could have kind of now we could do a lot better. Like, we're working on music now, and there's like, I don't know if I'm allowed to say this, but there's like a couple of things to come. Well, I mean, naturally, we're a band. There is going to be stuff to come, like there, I think maybe like 5 songs out of the 9 I'm really like. The rest of them I'm just like, eh. But yeah, the sounds. Basically, we were, since it was over lockdown, we all like wrote stuff, and then over Zoom we tried to add and layer things together, and it was all a bit confusing and slightly all over the place. That's why it's so like mixed genre, because like this was the first time that we're kind of working on such a big project together. I mean, it's changed now because we in college we worked together, things like that, right. And everything sounding really cool. Like, I'm a lot, like, not saying degrading the album at all, but I'm like a lot happier with the stuff we're working on.
So would it be fair to say, sorry to interject, but obviously you mentioned there that you were having to do a lot of writing via Zoom and stuff. It sounds like obviously that's quite tricky to do, and now you're physically together. So would you say it's just made it a lot easier to be physically together versus like doing it online and stuff together?
Oh my god, yeah, for sure. It was absolutely horrific. There was this, after Can't Help, we tried writing this song called War Song. It was just a nickname, and there's a little sneak peek of it on our Instagram if you scroll down hard enough. But like, it was so overworked. There was like, I think on the Google Drive it's like version 28 or something ridiculous. It was like the first time we're like properly working over there, and then completely scrapped it. I mean, it's a completed song. It's not good. It's overworked. It's just too much going on. And the second song we did was All Behind. That was a song I wrote in like 10 minutes because I forgot Tom asked me to write a song, and I was like, shit, I need to write a song. So I just wrote that, and then that's one of my favorites that we've done. And yeah, that one went down a lot better.
How would you describe Barrera's sound to anyone?
I think now, because I mean, I feel bad because a lot of people haven't heard like what we're hearing now. It's kind of, I would say it's kind of like an improved version of the songs like Full Sincerity, All Behind are more like, I can't remember like all the names of the songs on the album, sorry. Like more rocky stuff. It's like a more defined and I guess developed version of that. It sounds a lot cleaner and more professional. I mean, I don't think the album sounded too bad, but Tom's improved his production a lot, and it sounds really cool. But I would probably describe us as like, just because it's such a broad thing to call us alt rock, like it could mean so many things. Mm-hmm. So I like to say alt rock just because it gives us room to move around. Like, we have some fast songs, some like slower, like acoustic piano-y kind of Stereo Heaven kind of vibe song that we're working on. I mean, I don't think the rest of the band would describe it as that, but I would. yeah, like I just like being able to have that kind of space to play around, not just being like, oh yeah, we're this indie band that does styled light music like this, blah blah blah. It's just so restricting. Alt rock is so broad and perfect, I guess.
Yeah, don't undersell yourself for sure. Is there any particular artists that you'd say you kind of sound similar to? Like, I know that can be annoying sometimes as a question.
Oh yeah, no, it's all right. Probably I think I don't know, similar to. I know we take people know that we take inspiration from Pink Floyd, as is all of our, like, apart from our drummer, he loves Toto. Our drummer loves Toto, which is good. They have an amazing drummer. But we all like Pink Floyd, and you can hear that in like little things, like maybe some of the chords I use, like certain bits and solos, like bass. Maybe not bass. James is strange about bass. It's like just Pink Floyd, kind of, not really. I don't really know what we sound like, honestly.
Still figuring it out. I get it.
Yeah, I guess still figuring it out. We kind of just want to sound unique, I guess, because there's so many bands. We don't want to. You can never have like another Pink Floyd as well, obviously. So, it's just trying to work around that.
There'll be a moment when it clicks. Like, I remember with my first band, we were together about 3 years, and even when we recorded our own EP, it was like a 6-song EP. After that kind of, in our third year of being together, our third and final year, that was the year we actually started writing music that I would say, like, if we'd have continued, that would have been the direction. So we started as kind of a contemporary thrash metal band, and then it became post-hardcore, and none of us planned for that. It just kind of made sense. That was a lot of what our lead guitarist was listening to. I had some interest in it. It worked with what we were trying to achieve. It just kind of naturally went that way. So my point to you is, I think that there'll be a moment, it'll be maybe a particular song, maybe a particular record you write, and then you'll be like, this is it, this is our sound. Like, every record is obviously going to sound different, but there will always be that kind of like unique thread that kind of links it all, and that's the Barrera sound kind of thing.
Yeah, no, I see what you mean completely.
It'll happen. It'll be a fun moment,
like an epiphany.
But, yeah, you just wake up one morning and you're like, this is it, this is what we've been waiting for. Is there any story behind the band name?
Oh yeah, it's really lame. We get asked, like, naturally we get asked it quite. So I'm gonna move my mic to this, have it balanced on my glass because my mic clicks right. But yeah, basically. So after me and Tom worked on Can't Help, we're like, oh, we should release this, and it was like, not, we hadn't worked on it properly because it was like a really shitty version of Can't Help. It hadn't had Platt's drums, and it hadn't had James's bass because they weren't really a part of the band. And we're at Woking Station, and we said to James, because James was in another band at the time, and he was like, we're like, oh, do you want to play some bass for us? And he's like, yeah, go on, might as well. And now he's probably one of the most involved people in the band with songwriting. Mm-hmm. I think we all are now. I think it was mainly me at the start, but I think the boys have a bit more confidence with sharing things, what have you now. But yeah, so we asked James and we asked Platt, and we're like, right, if we're a band, we need to make an Instagram account. We thought this was such a great idea until we realized we don't even have a band name. So we're like,
so hard.
Yeah, like literally, we need to make this. So I made our I came up with like 5 random words, literally just random words that I thought sounded cool. And
yeah,
I'm not, like, surprisingly, 4 out of those 5 are already bands. Like, yeah. I was so shocked.
I always wonder about big bands, like Tool is a perfect example. Like, how did they just think, let's call our band Tool?
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, no, that's hilarious.
But it's a cool name, but it's literally just like, and I've heard so many stupid names like that before over the years, like where it's literally just one word.
Yeah, no, I do.
It's just like mad.
Yeah. So we're like, oh, Barrera is, I guess. And then I made a TikTok being like, oh, go follow us. And I remember, like, in like a month we got 1,000 followers, and were like, oh, this is so cool, we should use TikTok more. That's kind of where the TikTok thing came from. I was like, I made a TikTok on my personal promoting it, and I was like, this actually works. So yeah, we continue to do so. I need to be posting more about it though. I haven't, since we've been busy writing, I haven't been promoting as much as I should, and it kind of shows.
So, but just to ask again, like, so the name actually came as a kind of result of just mixing a bunch of different words, and it was like random.
Like literally just came out with a random word that I thought was gibberish, but apparently it means barrier in Spanish.
It means
I didn't know that.
Barrier.
Yeah.
Oh,
people are gonna like how in school English teachers are like, oh, in this part of Shakespeare means blah blah blah, and it reflects the blah blah blah. People are gonna like, whenever I write songs, I always think people are gonna do that in the future or something.
It's like, it means barrier. That's deep. That's like represents the barriers that they're facing in society. It's like, no, we just came up with randomly, like, for a laugh. Yeah. Cool. Okay. You touched on it a little bit in that speech there, but I want to just explore this a bit more. What is the actual band dynamic like, as far as like, is there like a particular leader, or how does that kind of work with you guys?
I do not. I think people kind of assume that I am like in control of certain things. No, I do social media. I think our guitarist Tom, he kind of like manages us in the sense of like making sure we're all doing what we need to be doing, because you kind of need someone to do that. And that's how I describe it. There's not really someone in control, but like Tom is always just making sure that we're doing what we need to be doing.
Okay. And the songwriting process, talk us through like how you tend to write a song. Like, is it yourself, or do you sort of come together as a band and jam it out? Talk to us a little bit about
that. So we all start off with writing songs individually, and then we go and jam it out. But like I start off with cool chords I think sound cool, and then just like try layering some stuff up, and then hand it over to the band to add their spice to it. Just indeed.
Okay. Good stuff. Let's move it on to TikTok. So you have a huge following on TikTok. Last count, it was at over 130,000. I'm sure it's actually grown since then. But
yeah, no.
Oh, how many are you on now?
Let me have a look.
You got 2 accounts as well, or 3?
Oh yeah, like that other one. I posted like it worked for a little bit, but then I've been focusing on music more than promoting. I need to snap out that bit. But I'm on 175,000.
Blimey! Now. So I did my initial research on you. Let me see, a month or so ago, and that's gone up like 45,000 in that time.
I did not really.
Yeah.
Quite baffling. I'm not really too aware of that.
There you go. I mean, it makes sense. You know, we discussed it earlier with your unique interests and personal style and all that. So it makes sense in that with regards to that. But at what moment did it kind of like start skyrocketing? Like, when did it kind of just go whoop?
Probably over lockdown. I've been doing TikTok for probably like 3 years now, just making videos. And then like over lockdown, the first lockdown, I like started making like retro style videos, and everyone was like, "Ooh, that's pretty snazzy." And then it kind of did well. And then like I don't think many people know this. Like probably during about like the second lockdown, I took a bit of a break because I kind of wasn't into it as much. And I was also living with my boyfriend over that, so I couldn't really make any cool videos, whatever. I mean, because the main attraction is my room most of the time. But so I like got back into it, and I remember like I like spent a lot of time like trying to like bring it back, because like normally with TikTok you go on a break and that's it, like no one cares anymore. But at that point I had 97,000, and then I started making videos again. One of them blew up, which took me over to 100K, and then I just kept going, and now it's back. I know everyone always likes the term shadow banned, I've never experienced anything like that really. I think and everyone likes to say shadow ban, but honestly what I think it is just interaction drops.
Yeah.
Naturally, like, because no, I don't think TikTok are going to individually go out and shadow ban this many people.
I think what happens more likely, this is what I've experienced as well, your videos get randomly pushed. Like what I've noticed with mine is that when I first post the videos, they get nothing for like 7 hours. And then right in the evening time, boom, randomly start getting views. And sometimes that'll happen like 2 weeks later after they've been pushed as well initially.
Yeah, I think the prime time for where people are active in the US for us in the UK is 10 o'clock is 10, 11-ish when people in the US start looking. So like I'll post a video and it'll get like, I don't know, 7,000 views from like my UK audience, and then I wake up and it has like 14k views just from like people in the US looking.
And that's the thing, it happens on every platform. I've been doing this with YouTube Shorts, and it's the exact same thing. Always happens, evening time, just randomly. And it's really cool, but it's like very telling. I think it's very split. Like most of the people that drop by my lives and stuff are UK audience. You do get a lot of an international audience, but typically that's where most people are from. But as you say, like those views, I think the majority of them are coming, unless it's something very specific to the UK in some shape or form. Then it's
I see.
Yeah. But yeah, I agree with you. I don't think that shadow ban thing is legit. I think that's
because there's so many people who've experienced it. Like, and the same. Do you remember? I remember when people were like saying, "Oh, I know that your views do drop when you do the Creative Fund because it's like written in there." But I remember it was like happening to, like everyone was saying, "Oh, my views are completely gone down," and the reason for that was because when they opened the Creator Fund, it encouraged people to create content so much more. There was over flooded. Like there was too much content compared to, like, my videos went down. I wasn't in the Creator Fund. Like for maybe a month, they weren't getting as big a reach as they would normally. It's literally just because there wasn't like enough content to go for them to post to everyone. Like it's just like and it's such a logical answer as well. Like that makes so much sense, but people are all jumping to these conspiracies. Like it's just how social, like especially TikTok, it's just how it works.
Yeah,
that's how it's going to work.
Yeah, and people need to see the bigger picture as well. Like right now, for instance, you're trying to leverage it to create a following for your band. You know that you got plans outside of it. You're not just like focused on this one thing. It's the same for me. I've got a YouTube channel. I've got music, acting, all these different exploits outside of what I do. And people don't always know that. They just think, oh, he's just messing around on TikTok or whatever. But no, I have a plan and I'm building a brand. I have a website, blah, 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 right? Yeah, right. And that's the way you got to look at these things long term to really use it in an effective manner. A lot of the time when people get big on one of these platforms, they don't know what to do with it afterwards, you know? And it's like, you got to start thinking about building that brand. That's the most important thing, I think.
Yeah, no, I agree.
So moving it forward, this is an interesting question. I always ask my guests this. What's the biggest life lesson that you've learned so far?
I don't know. This is going to sound like really emo and edgy, but I remember saying my boyfriend told me is have zero standards for everyone, so then you'll never disappointed. And it makes sense. It really makes sense. Yeah, I think that's a good one to have. Despite like I don't have like people on TikTok assume I have lots of friends. I really don't. Yeah. Like I don't have this may be like surprising. I don't have like a female like best friend kind of thing. I have friends who are female, but I don't like hang out with them. The only people I really hang out with are band. And I do have like I have a friend that I was catching up with who I used to go to school with recently, but yeah, no, I mainly just hang out with band. I don't really talk to many people, just also because I'm quite socially awkward.
Yeah,
honestly, that's another. People also message me being like, "How do I be confident?" I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah,
Why are you asking me?
The same with me. People assume that I'm really extroverted. No, on the contrary, I never start conversations. You'll never see me starting a conversation unless I'm very comfortable with the person. I'm very comfortable being alone. I like that. Very quiet. But I think it's different, isn't it? When you're talking to a camera, when you're doing stuff online, you know, and I can be confident. I'm what they call like an omnivert, so I'm both. I steer more towards introvert, and I think that confidence is relative. I think it depends on the company you're with, you know.
Completely.
But you know, there's nothing wrong with being quiet and being more introverted. I think that's always been implied as being like sort of a weakness, and I think that's wrong. That's not true. I think it's just different tastes. Some people are more, you know, they prefer being loud and talking to lots of people. Other people enjoy being quiet and alone, and I think that you just have to embrace both sides and, you know, try to understand people a bit better.
No, I see.
All right, well, listen, it's been a fantastic interview, so thank you very much for agreeing to do it. I've got one final question. Do you have any upcoming projects or final thoughts that you'd like to share with us?
I mean, I don't really have many upcoming projects other than working on music with band, but I think the one thing, I know it's really cheesy, but like the one thing I would say to people is, even though it like doesn't quite link into what you said, as in like I always say to people to just be themselves, even if you get called what was it again, like a poser. It's okay. They're sad people.
No, I agree. You know who you are, and that's the most important thing. And like, you know, the right people will acknowledge that. You know, I'm sure you get a lot of this as well. I get a lot of hate online.
I get mainly from like when I like made a video. I make videos of me like playing guitar, and there's always these really annoying indie boys that are like, you should use this tone and blah blah. Like, I just plugged it into my guitar. I if I wanted to, I could spend like 15 minutes making my guitar time really good, and I'm not incompetent. I know that one of my it's like if I start like a video and they're like, oh, you need to get new strings. I know, I'm just broke, okay? I know I need to get new strings. It's like I think it's just music can be really judgy, filled with judgy people. It's just that's just life. There's always going to be someone being pants, as I like to say. That's just like I remember I made this. You might have seen it. I made a video a couple days ago, which was like responding to this woman that was like, "Oh, armpit hair on women is disgusting," and like blah blah. And like when I made that video, I only cared about it for a solid 10 minutes, and I was like, I made a funny. I thought the video was quite funny. People were taking it way too seriously. Like, I don't actually care about her opinion that much at all. Like, I just don't like it when people like body shame other people.
It's mad. It's mad. Like, I did a video the other day where basically I didn't receive this Burger King that I ordered on my birthday, right? And I was a bit pissed at the time, but then I was just like, whatever. But like literally people went crazy in my comments, and they were like, you know, there was like full on arguments. So I remember some girl said, "Oh, first world problems" or something, and she's trying to be like edgy, and then she just got attacked mercilessly by people.
But it's like that's just like kind of just taking the piss a bit, as in like it kind of is, but it's like, you know, you're still allowed to like show how you feel.
You can complain, like it sucked for me because, you know, I didn't have dinner that night. I just had to have some snack or something, but it wasn't the end of the world. But it's funny how people think that like you really care, like you said, like you're really serious, and it's like, no, I don't care. I don't think about this after I posted it. I'm just like, move on to the next thing.
It was like with the video when I was like calling that girl a pygmy. The only reason I called her a pygmy is because she also made loads of videos. I stalked her on her page. She also made loads of videos about liking political boys. That's why I said the male validation thing, and also because it's funny. I wasn't being that serious, but I remember people automatically assumed that because I made that video, I don't shave my armpits, which I do. The whole point of it was I don't like people judging, like, you know, body shaming. Like I never even said that I did anything. I was just, the whole video is like, just let people live. Like, who cares? Honestly, who cares? You know? it's a weird world that people are having full on debates about armpit hair, and I'm like, people are dying, but you know, this is the world. Which I mean, that is completely hypocritical of me, because I did make the video at the end of the day, but like me being the massive hypocrite I am, I just decided I don't care about it after 2 days. And I was like something else, like I was naturally getting a lot of hate because it's technically a political view, even though I don't really have many political views. And I would turn the comments off, but I completely agree with like freedom of speech.
Yeah.
So people are allowed to have those debates. I don't care, you know. But yeah, my little standpoint.
I agree with you. Yeah, just want to say again a massive thank you for agreeing to be on the show. It's been awesome. Say to all my listeners of the Christian Reeve podcast, make sure to go and check out Isabel. Check out her band Barrera. You will not be disappointed. It's fantastic stuff. And yeah, to everyone listening to the Christian Reeve podcast, as always, make sure to leave us a review on Spotify, Apple Podcasts. If you're on YouTube, like, share, and subscribe. Do all that jazz. Let me know who you'd like to see on the show next, what you'd like to hear about on the show next. Be safe, be well.
I could give a couple suggestions as well for you later.
Ooh. She's got some suggestions. I'm happy to hear them. Yeah, be safe, be well, and I'll see you in the next one.